Video highlights from Dirt Track Speedway, presented by Fast Chefs by Axle Exchange. They're not just fast, they're first. FastChefs.com. Hey race fans, it is Bucky Doren. Thanks for joining me tonight for another edition of Dirt Track Speedway, episode 16 here tonight. The A-Main, don't be surprised, is tonight's conversation. And finally, my Victory Lane conversation tonight, no love goes a long way. I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. It's all being presented by Fast Chefs by Axle Exchange. They're not just fast, they're first. Thank you to Pat Fagan. And get yourself Super Nationals ready. Don't forget, they've got the opportunity for all kinds of 9-inch rears, 537, 550, 557, a nice in-between gear if you need a little, and 575s and more. Give them a call today. You can find their number at fastchefs.com. But thank you to Fast Chefs by Axle Exchange for being a proud supporter of Dirt Track Speedway. And with that, let's get things started. So for the heat races tonight, just found one particular thing that I wanted to point out and talk about next week's show as well. I was surfing the internet and I came across Jeremy Boulware's post, and it wasn't shared publicly, the one that I saw, but he was talking about how he finally got back, the return to the racing car in the seat. Didn't really turn out how he had hoped after all the toil and trouble of putting the car back together. Was running, was up in the top 5 area, and then an accident took place, and then he ended up getting caught in the middle of somebody else's spill and got door-dinged. Actually, probably door-dinged isn't the right word at all. Got hit pretty hard and ended up having to go to, I guess, the emergency room because this post was shared publicly. So I wanted to share this here in case you can't read it because you're on Facebook and it's small. Had my yellow wristband on from the races when I got to the hospital. Evidently, that's the same color they put on the morgue. So, good thing to see that Jeremy Boulware was in at least good spirits about it and having a little bit of fun with the situation here, but I'm hoping that didn't discourage you. I think it's on that post it did say that they'll get the car back together and they'll be back on the track. So, sorry, Jeremy, that you didn't have a great start, but I did want to say I appreciate the effort that you put in to come back to support the sport I love. Thank you very much. Coming up next week, it'll be our special season championship show. Now, there's a ton of track championships that have already taken place and a bunch of that are going to be taking place this weekend. There's a couple that'll still be in September, and we can't obviously highlight every single one of them, but I'm going to do my best to try and do just that and say salute. We'll figure out some way to do it. Plus, also, I've been kind of teasing this for about the last couple of weeks. I had an idea of what I thought might make an interesting season. It's obvious that the weekly racing isn't supported like it used to be for whatever reason. There's a multitude of different reasons. I'm not going to waste everybody's time on that. But I do have an idea, an interesting spin on the season-long track that maybe might be of interest. So while we try to salute our champions next week, I'll also share my idea of what I think might be an interesting way to run a season. And I don't care if anybody takes it or not, but if you do take the idea and you're a track promoter, just make sure I get a pass when I come over there and maybe a hot dog. I'd appreciate that. So next weekend will be our season championship show. So the A-Main conversation that I have for tonight is don't be surprised. Now, there's a ton of buzz, and there's always something. Well, social media is killing racing. No, it's still the people being jackasses, ruining racing. But there are a ton of people that are still out there that love the sport. They're just not as loud as the others or get as much traction as the others. So if you're going to say social media is ruining it, correct yourself. It is the actual individuals that are ruining it. That's my opinion. But don't be surprised if there's changes. I know that I'm going to be changing what I do. I've been served as the race director the last couple of years at the Independence Motor Speedway, and I signed off for the last time on the radios over there. Don't know what I'm going to do, but that's because I think there's some things that are going to be happening during this off season, and I don't want anybody to be surprised. Obviously, at the Independence Motor Speedway, for example, there's going to be a new promoter there. Whether it's run the same, whether it's under the same rules, whatnot, even if they run it exactly the same, it's still going to be different, so don't be surprised. And I think there's other changes coming. If you pay attention to the dust that has been flying here during our A-Main of a season, there's a lot of dust. There's a lot of unhappy, confused, I can do it better type of attitudes, or just ready for a change. And I think the dirt track racing world that we know on the Iowa dirt scene is going to be a lot different. And it might not be just next year, but I think next year it will start the ball rolling, that different things and how we look at racing on a regular basis, whether it be weekly or whether it be specials or the specials becoming the weekly. I think how we look and decide what we do and where we go is going to change. And those that are paying attention to this trend and are ahead of that trend are going to be the ones that are going to be successful. So if you're in this industry, whether you're a fan, whether you're a race car driver, whether you're an official, or whether you're a track promoter or a company that sponsors any one of those 5 different aspects of it, keep an eye on the trends. Don't be caught in yesterday's world. A lot of us still are. Well, I remember the old days. Well, the old days are the old days for a reason because, well, it's the new era. And whether you like it or not, change happens. Death and taxes, well, so does change. And every so often it comes back, praying that bell bottoms don't come back, by the way. But maybe what we remember of the 70s and 80s will come back. But that's not the trend it's going now. It is going to change. And the world of weekly racing, as we know it, will be different. It's time to embrace it and pay attention to it and be on top of the game. So don't be surprised if you all of a sudden notice there's different people, different promoters, different guys, and different gals involved with race cars and not involved with race cars anymore. I think one of the most interesting things that did surprise me this year was there was a handful of drivers that decided that they were done, but made zero fanfare about it. Didn't make a big deal about it. Just wanted to hey, I'm going to have a last race. I saw a few on there. Dirk Hamilton. I had no clue. I shook his hand, thanked him for the support during the 3 years that I worked there, and I didn't know that, Dirk, that was your last night at Independence or in a car. I guess you raced the next night, but if I would have known that, I would have probably made a bigger deal. But obviously, you didn't want to make a bigger deal about it. So as far as I'm concerned, kudos to you and congrats, and I hope you enjoy your retirement. All right, so my conversation for tonight in Victory Lane, no love goes a long way. You know, you've heard a little love goes a long way. Well, no love goes, I think, a long way as well. And I think, to be honest with you, probably more so than a little love. Now, I think last episode I said that this past weekend, regardless, I didn't know about the schedule for sure with the Independence Motor Speedway, but I decided that my job at the track was done after this weekend. I'd committed through, and most of my job has to deal with IMCA reports, keeping things going on the track and whatnot, and they don't really need me during the September Spectacular, so I was actually looking at doing other things. And there's a huge amount of reasons why. One, normally I'm not one that likes to sit tied to a particular thing. I love seeing other tracks. I see it on Facebook. Growing up, I used to look at the Hawkeye Racing News, and I'd read about these guys, and the Mid-States Report, when that started coming around as well, and I wanted to go to these different tracks. So as soon as I got my license, permission from the family, man, I was all over the place. I loved to go to different racetracks, and that's what I loved about it, because I wanted to see, the guys up in the Northwest and how they do, and actually watch them instead of, videos are nice, but nothing replaces being there. You can watch all the videos you want in the world, but nothing replaces that thunder in the chest and seeing those guys actually make those moves and have a huge amount of respect for it. So that's my thing. And so for the last 3 years, I've been kind of landlocked on Saturdays and had an opportunity to maybe go to the west side of the state, and I might still do that. But that's only a part of the reason. I'll be honest with you. Again, I brought up earlier when I was talking about social media. Social media isn't killing it. It's the people around you that are killing it. There's a ton of drivers and team members and other individuals that are demanding respect, but yet they do nothing to earn it. That's the thing that I find interesting. And I know as a race official, it's a thankless job. But I'll be honest with you, as a driver, it could be a thankless job as well. I saw 2 drivers in the infield hollering back and forth at each other. They had a different perspective on a particular pass that took place. I saw it, and to be honest with you, I thought both had a right to be pissed off. Good for you. Stand up for what you believe in. But the argument that they had going on was a little heated and involved a mother and acts that just aren't physically possible. And, well, really gets a little tiresome after a while, to be honest with you, and sometimes you need a break, and that's why I like rolling around. The month of September is a weird month in the Iowa dirt track scene, to be honest with you. In July, we're all complaining about, I'm tired of the grind, it's hot, but I love this sport, but dadgummit, I'm tired, blah, blah, blah. And then come September, it's like, man, the racing season's over. I'm all mad. I don't want it to end. It's also an interesting month because we get to see track champions. Sometimes there's track champions that we've loved to see, and then love to cheer against. And then also there's first-time champions, young guns that are coming up. It's a fun part of the season. It's also what I call the month of money. It kicks off in the IMCA world with the IMCA Speedway Motors Super Nationals. As of last year, the Yankee Dirt Track Classic got moved to Labor Day weekend, so technically it kicks off the month of money here in the state of Iowa. It's all about things that you love to do in this 1 month. You get a chance to travel all around. You don't have the pressure of the weekly shows anymore. Just going out and showing up, either hanging out with your family and friends one last time. But as the season winds down, you start looking back on the season. You remember the good things, but you're also going to remember the bad things as well. All those mountains of problems as the season ends suddenly fall off and drift into the sea. And what's left is that anthill that was originally there of what ticked you off. Now, why do we all of a sudden kind of come down? Well, because the racing season's over. We're not there as much. We're more engaged with other things, college football, the kids going back to school. So we quickly forget those things. We might not always remember the exact details, and that's the part we forget, but we'll always remember the good and the bad. And if you're ending the season on a bad note, or you are the reason why somebody's ending the season on a bad note, I encourage you to go out and do this. And I'm not looking at it for me because I'm pretty thick-skinned and I'm fine with the choices I've made and stand by the decisions and every call I've ever made. Right or wrong, I'll stand by it. But as we are winding down this season and starting to travel around, take some time to, as a fan, make sure you thank the track official or the guy or the gal that takes your ticket. Or if your season's over, reach out to them and just say, hey, I want to appreciate what you did. The track officials, they don't need to hear it, most of them, but along the way, it is nice to hear from time to time. If you're a race car driver, and I've actually had a few that have private messaged me the last couple of days and saying thank you. I might not always agree with the call, but I do appreciate your hard effort. Stuff like that to the track officials and the fans that sit in that 100-degree heat while you're out there, or drive 2.5 hours only to find out you get rained out, but they're there because they love you. Make sure you reach out and tell them thank you somehow. And as an official as well, make sure you get out there and say thank you. All the drivers that did send me private messages, or when I made sure I tried to shake everybody's hand on Saturday night, because I did really thank them, because they did do a lot to help me get my job completed. And I might not see eye to eye with everybody, and I'll be honest with you, some of them I just don't care to even talk to on a personal note. That doesn't mean I don't appreciate what they did. And I wanted to make sure I expressed that to them. Why am I talking about all of this? Is because no love goes a long way. And I decided, to be honest with you, I made that decision to not come back after this past weekend slightly rashly, because it was the no love aspect. I was just tired of it, to be honest with you. But it's my choice to decide whether I'm tired of it or not. So it's up to us to take a look at how things go. And so my thought is on this is, as we are getting into that point where we're starting to have here's the energy we're taking into the off season, I thought it might be nice if all of us reached out to those that are supporting racing, whether it be you're a fan to the other aspects, the drivers, you got the list. Just make sure they know that they appreciate, or that you appreciate what they do, whether it's the hours in the shop, sitting there and being, told how to, do things with your mother, and yet take it with a smile and do it professionally. It's okay to say, hey, thank you. And that's all you got to say. Just reach out and say thank you. I appreciate that. Anyway, that is my conversation for tonight. So I do appreciate everyone checking out tonight's show. I'm reaching for the towel tonight. We will talk to you next week. It is season championship week here next weekend, 9 o'clock on Monday. Thank you guys for joining in, and I appreciate it. Tell your friends. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, give the page a like. You'll see the logo, my logo in the bottom right-hand corner. Give it a click, subscribe. If you're watching it on Facebook, give it a like and share. I'd appreciate the love. And thank you again for the love from Fast Shafts. Pat Fagan and the crew, you guys are awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, throwing in the towel. We'll talk to you next week. All right, so I threw the towel and it didn't land.